All right, everyone. I'm back from London and Lisbon, where I've been the last 5 days. Apparently, a lot has happened since I've been gone. The Knicks have had, I think, two. I think they played two games. The Philly game was the day before, so they played two really close games. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk the breaking news, literally as I went live, that Davante Adams is being released by the Jets. We're going to talk the myriad and the never-ending injuries with the Yankees. And then we're going to finish with the biggest news while I was gone, that the Giants have some interest, or Aaron Rodgers has interest in the Giants. The Giants have some interest in Aaron Rodgers as well. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give my thoughts on all of this, but it's good to be back. Trip was fun with my sister. I went to a West Ham game. They do things different over there, that's for sure, even though this team, I got a little scarf. They suck. They're terrible. They won that game, though. That was fun. Reminded me of how it was like to be a fan of the Knicks for the 15 years before they finally got good in my life. All right, but let's get into it. Enough about my trip, enough about that BS. Let's start with this. And I know this is going to be a little deviation from what is about to come, but today it came out. I was on the train back into the city that Kyrie Irving tears his ACL, which I didn't think that this situation could get any worse for the Mavericks and their fans, but it did. And Kyrie Irving is now out for the year with this torn ACL, obviously. And the season is over now for the Mavs. They had already lost all three of their big men, Lively, Gafford, and Anthony Davis. And now they lose their best player in Kyrie Irving. What an unmitigated disaster. What a disaster this has been after Nico Harrison traded away Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. They had a chance. The guys they got in that trade, Max Christie and Anthony Davis, put them over the top to win a championship. Not to say that Luka wasn't that player, but the guy that they needed, the huge four in that lineup, that Anthony Davis is, with the size that they also had. Anthony Davis was begging for in the Lakers, they had on the Mavs. It made them a better team. And I thought that team, as it stood, when they traded for Anthony Davis and half of those guys were healthy, they had a chance to win the championship. NBA Finals and eventually winning it. That's that with that situation. Kyrie Irving is out, and I seriously cannot believe it. I cannot fathom what has happened to the Mavs since Nico Harrison pulled one of the worst trades in NBA history off. And then guess what? I don't know if you missed it, but the Mavs are increasing their ticket prices by 8%. Are you joking? Or are you kidding me? I cannot even fathom that decision. Look at the Knicks organization. Look how good they've got. James Dolan, to his credit, has not raised the price of the tickets in the last 2 years. And the Knicks have gotten good. Now imagine trading away a generational talent that your entire fan base is completely, unfathomed by. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying. That your team is, and fans are completely enamored by, and Luka Doncic. And then you have the audacity to raise the ticket prices. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. I know it's not New York sports. I know it's not what I'm talking about today, but I saw that news, and I was, quite frankly, in shock. And I feel terrible for the Mavs fans out there. And let me make this clear to Mavs fans. If you'd like to join us and the Knicks bandwagon, be my guest. We're accepting anyone. So, listen. No, we're not. I take that back. We're not accepting everyone. We're accepting Mavs fans who have grown disgruntled with their franchise. Come to the dark side. Come and join us as Knicks fans. Because if I was a Mavs fan right now, I find it extremely hard pressed to root for my team at all in any capacity. Enough with that. The Jets just released Davante Adams to no one's surprise. Listen, this was coming. They saved $30+ million. I think it was. Let's see the number. Hold on. I just saw it. It's like $29 million. They're about to save. $29.9 million, $30 million in cap room. Listen, this was as big of a lock as anything in the world. Rodgers leaves. Why the hell would Davante Adams stay? And now it's interesting to see where Davante Adams ends up. He can go back to the Packers. I'm sure that there are a bunch of teams in the NFL that are dying to acquire his services, even at the ripe old age of his mid-30s at this point. He's still a great talent. He obviously has this undeniable rapport with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to talk about that at the end. The Giants, Aaron Rodgers story and rapport. I'm going to get to that at the end. And how this Devontae Adams news ties into that. Because maybe he might end up on the Giants. Who knows? If he's willing to take a pay cut. Because the Giants at this point cannot offer him what other teams could offer. 20, 25, $30 million. That's not going to happen if you're Joe Schoen. He's not going to give that contract. So let's get into this Knicks stuff. The Knicks 2 nights ago or 2 days ago, for me it was night. I didn't get a chance to watch. It was my last night in London. But I watched the game back. I watched the second half specifically. The first half highlights, second half. Man, how good was OG Anunoby in the second half? It's what we've been missing for the large majority of this season. I mean, in November, he was arguably the Knicks' second best player. And then he fell off a cliff. And you could see in his attitude, that clearly in his demeanor, that something was lacking, that he was clearly laboring. Either that or he wasn't 100% rested. With, of course, you're playing 40-plus minutes a game. At that point, I think when the clock, when the page turned to December, OG was 1 or 2 in terms of minutes played. And a guy like that, who has been known to be injury-prone earlier on in his career, that's not sustainable. So, of course, at some point, his body started to break down. He injures his foot. It was a sore foot, or it was a sprain, or wherever the hell it was, against the Lakers on my birthday, February 1st. He misses a good 3 weeks until after the All-Star break. He comes back, and this is what I was expecting. Not to say that I was happy about the OG Anunoby injury, but when he went down, I'm like, he's finally going to get that much-needed rest. Because a guy like him is not going to voluntarily, and all these guys in this Knicks team aren't going to voluntarily say to Tom Thibodeau, hey, coach, I need a couple games off. I'm dying out here. That's not going to happen. If you're bought into Tom Thibodeau coach team and the culture that Tom Thibodeau brings about in his best players, you are never going to do that. That has never been seen once. And there is a reason why every year when the Athletic, or whomever does it, does the anonymous poll of the NBA players, Tom Thibodeau is consistently number 1 or 2 in guys, or in the spot of a coach that teams, players don't want to play for. And there's a reason behind that. Because you got to buy into that culture. There is clearly, listen, as much as this Knicks team doesn't look the same as they did last year in terms of the hard-nosed mentality, the defensive pressure that they applied, and the resilience, a Tom Thibodeau coach team, at the end of the day, is still going to play just as hard. If the fundamentals aren't there on the defensive end, that's a bit of a deviation from what we've seen from Tom Thibodeau coach teams. Just what happens when you got 2 defensive liabilities in the starting lineup. That's what's going to happen. No matter how good of a defensive coach you have, no matter how great your 2 best wing defenders are, top 5 in the NBA. Whatever. But the Knicks get 2 close wins, 3 close wins. The one against the Sixers, they never were really able to pull away in that game. Outscored in the second half, didn't matter. They still won the game. And then they beat Memphis the other night in a game in which Jalen Brunson gets triple teamed. He finds OG Anunoby. He hits the 3, puts the Knicks up 1, wins them the game. I mean, what more can you ask of OG Anunoby? Again, as I said a couple of minutes ago, very encouraging to see the type of play that we've been seeing from OG Anunoby. The first half in the last game left a lot to be desired against the Heat. Second half, he was the best player on the floor. Unstoppable. And when Jalen Brunson inevitably is going to get doubled at the end of games, someone is going to have to step up. You know who has not been that guy? Mikal Bridges, who it seems like every other game needs to get benched because he's not playing well enough. And there's a reason why Deuce McBride finished the game against the Heat. Deuce went off. He actually played solidly offensively. And it feels like when Mikal Bridges doesn't have it working on the offensive end, he doesn't bring it defensively. When he has it working, he becomes this defensive monster. Deuce McBride is always going to bring it on a defensive end. And when his shot is falling, he's what, the third, fourth best scoring option on this team? Realistically, after Bridges. So I listen, it's been so unbelievably frustrating and euphoric at the same time to watch on a nightly basis Mikal Bridges show up as a different player. It's never consistent with him. And I don't know how much more we can ask from Mikal Bridges because it's not like the offensive pressure is there. It's not like it's like, we're going to pass you the ball. You got to score like he was in the Nets as their number one option. He's the number 3 option. Sometimes when OG Anunoby has it working, he becomes the number 4 option. So what the hell is the excuse? Because the Knicks, as a team, their team unit does not play as cohesively when Mikal Bridges doesn't have it working, defensively and offensively. So props to Tom Thibodeau for putting his inherent bias to the side when it comes to playing his star players and playing Deuce McBride at the end of that game. Good for Tom Thibodeau for realizing what Mikal Bridges can be, a liability when he doesn't have it working. Deuce is consistent. You know, every time he's out on the floor, he's going to give it his all. And when he's got it working, I think he's one of the top 5, top 10 role players in the NBA. He's that good. And I watching that game on the Heat broadcast last night, they were glazing the hell out of Deuce McBride. Oh, this is one of the best role players in the NBA. He's gotten so much freaking better. And Tom Thibodeau has been rewarding him with big minutes. I thought he should have started all those games in which OG Anunoby was out. I think it's difficult to play Josh Hart at the 4. I think that's the issue. You kind of limited yourself with the options that you had when Precious Achiuwa needed to play. You know, as the 4 in that lineup. Now Mitchell Robinson's back. Let's say OG Anunoby goes out again. I know I'm a little bit off topic here, but then you could start to insert Deuce McBride back into that starting lineup. I'm excited to see the type of lineups that we could see going forward with Mitchell Robinson's return. Speaking of Mitch's return, he's been back for 2 games. He's looked pretty solid. He's looked pretty solid. I mean, he's been a little bit slow with rotations defensively. He's kind of guessed rather than reacted. The switching it needs to improve, but he's working himself back into the groove. He had the best plus minus in the win against the Grizzlies in his first game back. Well, what more can you ask of the guy? Offensive rebounds will come. Good contests on the 3-point line will come. No one as a center in this league does a better job getting out to 3-point shooters than Mitchell Robinson. I mean, as good as he is an offensive rebounder, defensive rebounder, that's one of the top 3 things he does best. He's so long and he's so quick. And again, it remains to be seen of what type of player and the type of athleticism that he's going to have now that he's back. But even with the 2 bum feet, 2 bum ankles, he gets out the 3-point shooters extremely well. So I've liked what I've seen from him. Again, the offensive rebounds will come. The better defensive switches will come. He's going to look more comfortable over time. It's been a long time that he's been out. 9-10 months. It's difficult to reacclimate yourself back into an NBA season, back into an NBA game. He looks a little slow. He will get quicker. I'm not talking about athleticism. That's something that, it's not going to come back magically. If he has it, he has it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm talking about reaction time. And Kel'el Ware against, of course, the Heat center, who I really wish the Knicks traded up and got in the NBA draft. How good would they be with Kel'el Ware? He was just slow to getting around to the pick and rolls, a lot of wide open alley-oops. And not just him, Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a traffic cone defensively. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. He sucks on defense. He's terrible. And I'm excited to see when Mitch starts to, again, reacclimate himself back into the Knicks lineup, how this team could look with Mitchell Robinson starting at the 5, with Karl-Anthony Towns at the 4. Because it's exactly what we have already seen with Karl-Anthony Towns with the Timberwolves. I think there's going to be a lot less pressure for him to stop big men down in the paint. And he could be more of the roaming big man around the court. He's quick. He can get out to 3-point shooters. He just cannot defend the pick and roll to save his life. He cannot. He's terrible. Enough Knicks. More Knicks coming this week. They play the Warriors tonight. Very much looking forward to that game. It's going to be nationally televised on TNT at the Garden. I'm sure those prices are exorbitantly high. I haven't checked. But another must-win game for the Knicks. The Warriors have looked very solid since they acquired Jimmy Butler. And a takeaway that I have from these close wins is great that they perform in the clutch, but they can't afford to F around earlier on in games against the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Thunder. They cannot afford that. If they do that, they will fall into even an impossible hole to climb out of. And we saw that the last time the Knicks faced off against the Celtics. They were down too much. They were down 21 points at the half, with the Celtics shooting 6 for 9, 19 from 3. They didn't have it working from 3. Knicks still down double digits, 20-plus points. And the second half, the third quarter, Jalen Brunson has a heroic effort. The Knicks cut it to, 4 points? And that was it. That was it. The Celtics went on a run. They won the game because they effed around in the first half, and they found out. That's how it works against these top teams. The Cavs, they have this nickname for their runs, the Cavalanche, because it happens so often. They get going. They go on a 15-0 run. You're screwed. You can't climb out of that hole. So, listen, it's great to see the Knicks have finally, after, double-digit years, a guy they trust wholeheartedly in the clutch. Jalen Brunson, for good reason, should absolutely win the NBA's most clutch player award that they've been giving the last few years. What a travesty that would be if he doesn't win it. How good has he been? How many games has he won the Knicks this year? 6, 7, 8? Can you imagine if the Knicks, because they didn't have Jalen Brunson's heroics, they're in a completely different spot. They're comfortably in the third position in the Eastern Conference because of Jalen Brunson. They F around in too many games. They get cute. They get stagnant on the offensive end. The opponent makes a comeback. And at the end of the game, the last 5, 10 possessions, Jalen Brunson is given the ball every single time, clear out of his way, and let him do his work. Maybe the occasional Karl-Anthony Towns pick and pop or pick and roll, which has its solid results. But this is all a testament to how much the defense respects Jalen Brunson, especially in these close game scenarios down the stretch. The Knicks win these last 3 games because of Jalen Brunson. Yes, OG Anunoby hit the big 3. They triple-teamed Jalen Brunson. They triple-teamed him. And he found OG Anunoby wide open because the defense respects him. That's why. And OG, to his credit, he hit the shot. All right, if he misses the shot, the Knicks lose the game. It's a wide open 3, though. Any NBA player should be able to make that, even in the clutch. Even in the clutch. So, listen, I talked about this last week before I went to London and Lisbon. I need to see more from this team. I need to see a convincing win against a team like the Warriors tonight. I need that for my own good, my own well-being. Because it's been so difficult to try to have hope this year. Because the Knicks get absolutely bludgeoned every time they face teams that are actually contenders. The teams that they play, the Grizzlies, they played extremely well against. They blew them out earlier on in the year. They had the come from behind road win in this last game they played against them on Friday night. They're not a contender. I've said it repeatedly. There are 3 teams in the NBA that have a chance to win the title this year. I'm going to keep repeating it until you're blue in the face. Celtics, the Cavs, and the Thunder. That's it. That's it. The Mavs injuries, they're done. If you missed it, I talked Kyrie at the start of this. I can't fathom what has happened to the Mavs. This is what you get, Nico Harrison, for making the most stupid trade in NBA history. Teams like the Lakers, I'm not buying it. I'm not bought into that team potentially winning a championship. Sorry. I know how well LeBron has been playing the last 2.5 months. I think at this point he deserves first team All-NBA. But I don't know. I don't know. As good as Luka has been, as good as he will continue to get on that team, they don't match up well against the Thunder. No one matches up well against the Thunder. The Thunder have 5 solid defenders and 3 scoring options in that starting lineup. How many guys off the bench could come in and give 20 points? 3, 4. They are so good. And the Cavs with the Hunter trade, that puts them over the top. The Celtics, they won the championship last year. You have to respect them. Style of basketball they play has its fruits. So enough of the NBA talk. I'm going to be talking more the Knicks, whatever. A big game tonight. Excited for that. I'll be watching that one closely. Let's get into, man, every time, it feels like every time I look down at my phone, there's more terrible Yankees news. The latest news is that The Yankees, number 3, number 4 starter, Luis Gil, is going to be shut down from throwing for 6 freaking weeks. It's looking extremely likely that Luis Gil, at the best case scenario, is back in June. Realistically, maybe July. Thank God they didn't trade away Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman is rejoicing right now because guess who's back in the starting rotation? Him. So listen, it gets worse and worse with this team. And now DJ LeMahieu for the 550th time is injured. What did he tweaked his left calf? And you think with him taking 2 months off from swinging a bat that, it would have its benefits. Of course not. The guy's going to get hurt either way. I mean, nothing this guy, listen, I feel bad for the guy. I genuinely do. But he's also making $15 million a year, so he'll be fine. He'll be fine. The last 5 years of DJ LeMahieu at $15 million, at $2, has been an absolute unmitigated disaster. And he's hurt again. To no one's surprise, how shocking it is that DJ LeMahieu is hurt again. The Yankees have to DFA the guy. They have to. Cut your freaking losses. End this awful experiment since the Yankees re-signed him. It has been now 5 years. Since 2020, a COVID year, that DJ LeMahieu has been close to worth anything near what his contract is. And it's time to stop this. End it. End this experiment. Because that's what it is at this point. You've got Oswaldo Cabrera and DJ LeMahieu platooning as your third baseman. That's a freaking experiment. Get rid of the guy. End this situation. I'm sick and tired of opening up my phone every single spring training and seeing first Aaron Boone saying, DJ LeMahieu looks amazing. He's in great shape, the best shape of his life. And then 2 weeks later, it's another injury. Specifically the lower body injuries. And then he's out half or more than half of the year. The Yankees bring him back, and he's nowhere near the same player because of the injury. And then it comes out that DJ LeMahieu wasn't 100%. Well, no shit, he wasn't 100%. He's constantly hurt. Brian Cashman, dude, just admit that you were wrong on this extension. And DFA the guy. And save us any more suffering. And any more false hope going forward for this team. And that's not even the worst injuries they're currently facing. Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Guess where we are? We're back to square one when it comes to the Yankees' lack of transparency on one of their best players' injuries. And you know who I'm speaking about here, and that's Giancarlo Stanton, the guy with 2 bum elbows, 2 tennis elbows. It was reported that he went back to New York to see, I forgot the doctor's name, to see a doctor. Then they come out, they say it's personal. You know exactly where this is headed. You know what this means. You know exactly what this means. When they don't tell you what's going on, it's a bad situation. It's bad news. Same thing with the Knicks. Right? 2 top organizations aren't honest about injuries. I wouldn't say not honest, they're not transparent. They don't tell you like it is. I understand there's some strategy in that. And never let them know your next move. But at the same time, we're messing around here. We're beating around the bush. Come clean. Tell us what's going on. I think if they were transparent and honest when it comes to the Giancarlo Stanton injury, I think we'd all be pretty disappointed. Because as it currently stands, I do not see Giancarlo Stanton returning anytime before July or August. And then guess what? It's going to take another month and a half, 2 months to get him back up to full speed. Full speed. He's the slowest guy in Major League Baseball. but you know what I mean with this bat. And then once that happens, the Yankee season might be over. Or who knows? You get him healthy for the postseason because that's all that really matters. I mean, the Yankees do need his production in the regular season, 100%. I saw the splits from last year. And I mentioned this last week when I talked about the Giancarlo injury, of like how good the Yankees lineup was with him in it and how good the team was with him in it in the lineup versus how bad they were with him not in it. And I think that's going to be much of the same this year. Because you look at the firepower, the lack of firepower in this lineup, it's concerning. You lose Juan Soto. You get Paul Goldschmidt. You get Cody Bellinger. Whoop-de-do. Whoop-de-frickin-do. What are you going to do for me today? Is Cody Bellinger going to magically regain the power that he once had when he was an MVP of the league? Doubt it. Is he going to hit 30-plus home runs like he used to? I doubt it. So I'm finding it very difficult to have any hope for this upcoming Yankee season. I think it's kind of been par for the course for me, and I know a bunch of other Yankees fans out there, since Juan Soto signed with the Mets, since the Yankees have done a pretty respectful job pivoting in the offseason. They haven't done enough. You know, how many years in a row is it with the Yankees without a third baseman? It's difficult to watch because the Yankees lost the guy that made them a unique team. A guy who changed the makeup of said team for the first time since 2017. The Yankees finally traded for that lefty bat, the generational lefty bat that they so desperately needed in the lineup. And of course, he goes out and signs the Mets. And what are you going to do? The Yankees offered him a very respectful deal, and he left. And the Yankees went out. They did what they needed to do. They acquired the best closer in the league in Devin Williams. They acquired one of the top lefties in the game in Max Fried, albeit at an extreme length at 8 years, something that I don't think anyone was expecting. They had to get him. They had no choice. They had no choice but to trade for Devin Williams. They had no choice but to trade for Goldschmidt and Bellinger as well. I just don't think I don't think that's enough. I don't. Like, I got to see Kyle Tucker in pinstripes next year. I got to see Murakami, whoever you pronounce his name, the lefty first baseman from Japan, in pinstripes and not in LA with the Dodgers. I need to see those two things. This year, I don't know what fans are expecting. Yes, the AL still seems like it's going to be wide open. The Red Sox, I'm a little concerned about. They signed Bregman. Concerned about the Rangers. Got DeGrom back and healthy. We still have one of the best lineups in all of baseball. So, I mean, listen, there are a bunch of things that are out of the Yankees' control that will need to come together for the Yankees to have success this year, if they're going to have it at all. But what if the Yankees, see a step down from Aaron Judge? Look how good he was last year. They get a step down from him again? I'm not saying again, it hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. He's getting up there in age. We're going to see a drop-off at some point soon. We've already seen it in the field. And at some point, we're going to see it with the bat as well. And once that happens, the Yankees are going to be SOL. Shit out of luck when it comes to their lineup. So if you are having hope about this Yankee season, please let me know. Let me know what it is and what's driving that. Tell me. I'd love to know. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today, and something that I presume I'm going to get to with Sean Morash, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll get a podcast out this week, or maybe not. I don't even know what the hell he's doing. He might be away, actually. But we're going to be talking about this major news, and that's, first it was reported that Aaron Rodgers reached out to the Giants to gauge their interest, because, I mean, presumably if that's what you do, you're running out of options elsewhere. If you're reaching out to the team with tied for the worst record this year, I don't think any other teams are interested in you as well. They reached out to the Giants, and supposedly there's some mutual interest. And I've got plenty of thoughts on this. First off, as it stands, looking at the stats, Rodgers might be the best option out there. Now that the Giants lost out on Stafford, we just found out that the Giants met the Rams' asking price for him and also met his terms for potential extension. And he just decided to go back to the Rams, and quite frankly, good for him. That was the right move. That was the correct move from Matthew Stafford. Why the hell would you want to spend the rest of your years with 0% chance to win a Super Bowl? Not saying the Rams have this unbelievable chance, but they have a proven head coach. They're the team that came the closest to beating the Eagles, the juggernaut that was the Philadelphia Eagles this last year. They're the one team in the playoffs that made it a good game. Why the hell would you go to the Giants after that? And also to play the Eagles twice a year? An increasingly solid NFC East. So he made the right decision there. He took a little bit less money to go back to the line, to go back to the Rams. And now the Giants are, they're running out of options. You go to Russell Wilson. You go to the unproven still guy in Justin Fields. Do you go out and get Kirk Cousins, who just did not look the same after the torn ACL that he had a year and a half ago? Do you go out and you sign Sam Darnold? These aren't sexy options. These are, stopgap guys. And this was always going to be the expectation. The Giants would draft a quarterback, play the veteran for a year or maybe two or maybe even less. And then you see what you have with the backup, who's the rookie, eventually when his time comes. And if Rodgers was just Rodgers, just the skill set, just remnants of the best quarterback that I've ever seen with my own two eyes, the most talented quarterback, the best quarterback is Tom Brady, the most talented I've ever seen is Rodgers, then sure, I'd be all for it. The Jets, the New York Jets, just cut ties with him because they asked him to stop doing Pat McAfee, to stop making an absolute fool of their organization because of his very, very out there personality and comments and anti-vax stuff and drugs, like all that stuff. It's unnecessary baggage to have. His production didn't justify that. The Jets won enough games to make the playoffs. I guarantee you he'd be back with gangrene this year. And Joe Douglas wouldn't have been out of a job. Robert Saleh would have been out of a job. But that did not come to fruition. And it was hard watching him week after week after week, even after they traded for Devontae Adams, make a fool out of the organization in a broadcast in front of millions of people on Pat McAfee. So if I'm the Giants and Aaron Rodgers insists on continuing to go on Pat McAfee with all of the drama and the BS surrounding the Giants organization, this is the last freaking thing that you need. More controversy. I don't care what Aaron Rodgers brings you as a 40-year-old. I simply do not care if the BS continues. Because as I just said, it's the last thing the Giants need. You've got an owner putting pressure on the GM and the head coach to go out and win. Even after he brings them both back, which is essentially a signal that he believes in the process. So you've got a GM and you got a head coach who are stuck between a rock and a hard place, who don't know what the F to do. They want to win now, but they understand the team still has more holes to fill. They're still 2 good drafts away from being competitors. There's still 2 or 3 solid free agent signings at cornerback, at safety, at defensive tackle from being a good NFL team. That's a lot. That's a lot. But they have pressure to win now, or to at least put up a respectable effort in the majority of games that they play, and not to get bludgeoned against some of the worst teams in the NFL. To not lose to the Carolina Panthers, who at the time were the worst team in the NFL in Europe. Those losses are not going to fly this year. So the Giants and their GM and their head coach, they feel that pressure. I do not know if an experiment with Aaron Rodgers is the best way to go about things because of how frail this situation is as it stands. The Giants cannot afford any more controversy. They are already the laughingstock of the league. Aaron Rodgers comes in, makes a fool of himself and the organization, just like he did with the Jets. It's only going to get worse, and I just don't know how that's even possible after the season that we just witnessed. And what I correctly called the worst full season in Giants fan history. I simply do not think any other year is close, especially with Saquon Barkley hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, wearing the jersey of our most hated enemy, the Philadelphia Eagles. Bringing Aaron Rodgers in, with the schedule they have next year, it could turn out to be an absolute disaster. Those are my 2 cents on it. Again, I assume that I'll get into it with Sean Morash on our podcast, One Giant Step, later on this week. I'm very interested to hear his thoughts on this. I've already been texting with him about it. He is definitely more excited about the prospect than I am. But that'll be a fun debate. And if you're new to this, you're just tuning into me. I host a podcast with Sean Morash on top of the stuff that I do on my own. You can get that podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can check it out on the WFN YouTube. And we do that once a week during the season, 2 times a week. But listen, this is an interesting time to be a Giants fan. It's been an interesting time these last 4 years. Has it been fun? Absolutely if not. It's been terrible. It's been really bad. An unfortunate time to get into hosting a Giants podcast. That's what I'll say. But that'll do it for today. That'll do it. We discussed a lot today. We started with Kyrie, did Adams' release. That's another thing. The Giants can bring in Devontae Adams. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, the Giants definitely do need a second receiver. I don't know if I want to deal with that. I don't know if Devontae Adams is going to be willing to take a massive pay cut to come to the Giants. I digress, though. I'm going to get into that. Maybe One Giant Step. Check that out. Again, as I said. We talked Knicks close wins. We talked the Yankees injuries. And, of course, we finished up with this Rodgers news. So that'll do it for today. And stay tuned for whatever I have coming. There's going to be a cavalcade of content coming your way now that I'm back from London. So stay tuned. And thank you all for tuning in today. Have a good one.